Hey guys, welcome to Quinian's Budget Crafts. Time to make some ruins. Again, starting with a really bad drawing here. I want to have like an altar and some short pillars and big pillars and stones, and I'm not sure exactly, just something along the lines of that. Got some of these dragons from the dollar store. I end up not using these, but you definitely can if you want to. If you don't like the way they're posed, you can heat them up with a heat gun and reshape them. I'll show that later, but again, I don't end up using the dollar store dragons, so you can just forget those for now. Those 4 big stones, I'm basing it off of this. Yep, those are the stones from Frozen 2. I'm not going to copy them exactly because I don't want the Disney overlords mad at me, but you definitely could if you wanted to. If you want the features on them to be symmetrical like they are in the movie, then you're going to need to line them all up, find out whereabout you want those features to be, and just mark them with your ruler. So then I went through and just sort of drew on more or less what it kind of looked like to me, so I had some kind of guide of where to cut it. And then go through and cut it out with the hot wire, or a knife, or whatever you got. A knife would work fine, but I have the hot wire, so I'm just going to go ahead and use that. And to keep them from being, perfect square, 4 sides, whatever, go through and cut them again at an angle to try to trim those corners off a little bit. You can kind of wobble it back and forth a little to get more interesting details. Once you have something kind of roughed out, go back through with a file or a smaller knife or sandpaper, emery board, whatever. Just something to kind of grind it down. If you're using chunks of XPS like I am, it's going to be really, really smooth on those 2 flat sides. And it's probably not what you're after because stone generally isn't actually that smooth. So go back through with some sandpaper or a little ball burr for a Dremel, that kind of thing. And just kind of dig in some rough patches. For those nice crisp lines on it, you can cut them in with a knife, you can file them in with sandpaper that's been folded in half. But if you have a hot wire, that's definitely going to be the easiest way to do it. Just push the piece right into the hot wire and back it off again, and there you go. For the holes that go through the middle of it, I've just taken one of my round files that has a sharp point on it and stab it straight through. Then take my bigger chainsaw file and push it through again to widen the hole a little bit. Once you've got all your holes and stuff done, you can use the ball burr that I was showing earlier and just sort of spin it gently by hand. Don't use the Dremel, you'll throw dust all over the place. Just sort of spin it on there and kind of widen out the entrance to the hole. So in the movie, these things have all kinds of fancy designs. There's a different one for each thing. If you watch the movie, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to copy all of that, but I do like the diamonds around there, so I'll just sort of rough in a diamond shape around each one. They're not all exactly the same. And then go through and put some other little details, just something to make them different. Like I said, I don't want to copy it exactly, because that's not actually what I'm building. For those shorter pillars, just take some more XPS. Just go ahead and stick them on a nail on a board, and slide the board through your hot wire and spin it around to make some cylinders. Of course, if you have the procs on and the shifting lance tools, that makes this way easier than what I'm doing, but this does work. Also, I'm making ruins, so if these don't come out perfect, it'll be fine. Ruins generally aren't perfect. For these pillars, I want them to have that Roman, or is it Greek? You can never tell the 2 apart. You know the pillars with the little grooves in there that go all the way around? So I just marked 8 spots on this thing and push it into the hot wire like I did for the lines on the other stones. Just to cut a little trench as a starting point. Once your little trenches are cut in, then you can use your file to go ahead and widen them out, make them look however you want. I ended up doing mine all the way down to the point that there were little sharp edges instead of flat spots, so you can do whatever in between you like. If your file is not wide enough, or you don't have a round file, you can just wrap some sandpaper around a Sharpie and it'll do the same exact thing. Just do all your pillars, and now we need to cut out 2 more pillars, in a manner of speaking. One is a little bit bigger than the pillars, and the other one is a lot bigger than the pillars. And then what we're going to do with those is we're going to cut little slabs off of those 2 things we just cut. These will act as the top and bottom of the pillar. Now that you cut all your little circles, just go ahead and stack them up for putting on the pillar. What you want to do though, because you did have to use a nail, or at least with my setup I had to use a nail, is you want to make sure that the ones that have holes end up on the bottom of the pillar. To stick all this together, just glue the little one to the big one, and then the pillar middle section thing to the little one, and then again in reverse. It helps a lot if you go through and glue the big and little ones together first, so you only have one piece to mess with. But there you go, there's a little pillar. Just go ahead and do that with all the rest of them, and then we'll mess them up. You can use a knife, you can use any of your files. This round triangular one is good for making deep cuts, whereas a knife, I mean obviously it'll cut it as a knife, but it won't make it like a wide gap. You can use a pokey tool to scrape at it. That works pretty good too. Or you could just use your thumbnail and pinch chunks off of it. This triangular file is good for making those deep cracks and cuts in there. Don't forget to do the top and the edges of the circular things you made, and just do that to all your pillars. If you are going to base this, you can save all these chunks here. You can even use some of the scrap XPS you have left over from cutting the circles out to make more chunks. That makes really good rubble. For this altar, we'll just use some dollar store foam. I ended up making this about an inch high, 3 inches long, an inch and a half wide, something like that. The sizes doesn't really matter, just make whatever looks right. Like with most projects, I just hot glue it together, and if it doesn't glue together exactly perfect and flat, or something wasn't cut exactly the same, just trim it off in the end, it'll be fine. Cut out a slab for a lid. Doesn't really matter if the lid fits exactly perfect or has overhang. Again, it's one of those, if it looks right to you, then it's right. And of course, just hot glue it on like everything else. I also cut a bottom for this thing out, but I don't want to put it in just yet. You'll see. Of course, if everything else is ruined, you want this to be kind of ruined too. So go through and just rip some chunks off. And you can go in with your Sharpie and draw in some lines for cracks like you would do on tile floors or something like that. And don't forget to scuff up the surface of this too. At this point, you can go ahead and blackwash, Mod Podge, everything. If you're doing the little chunks for rubble and stuff, just wear a glove and then take the Mod Podge and rub it on the pieces in your hand and kind of smear it around with your glove. It doesn't have to be a perfect exact coating. As long as most of it's coated, you're fine. I'm going to go ahead and use the basic stone painting method on these. And I did use a sponge for the lighter color stuff. And I did the same thing for the painting as I'm doing with the Mod Podge here. I just held the stuff in my hand and smeared the paint all over it. Once those are all painted and dry, it's time to decorate some stuff. This is where you would want to add your flocking or any other paint colors or that kind of thing. I ended up not doing any flocking because I want these to be used in whatever I need them for. But I do want to fancy it up a little. So I grabbed some skulls from my box of Citadel skulls and spray painted them gold. And we just hot glue them right on. So the reason I didn't glue the floor into it or the bottom of it into there yet is because glitter. This is a mix of silver and gold glitter with some of the little gold bars and stuff from the Bejewel Your Face thing I've talked about before. So all you're going to do is add a bunch of hot glue to build up mass, and then put it in the box and shake it around to get the glitter to stick to it. Then you can pick it up and shake it off into the box and hopefully not get craft herpes all over the place. And just put a little bit of hot glue on the inside edge of the box there. Also, I spray painted the inside of the box shiny silver to make it kind of shine. It didn't seem to have any effect. If it works for you, go for it. Otherwise, don't worry about it. But yeah, just put some hot glue in there and stick the whole thing in. For a base to put the altar on, I just made a little platform with this cobblestone roller that I made. Same paint job as everything else. To put it on, just put a big old blob of hot glue in the middle and stick it right down. You will have to hold it for about a minute or so until that sets, because the hot glue will try to push its way back up. Then you can add a little bit of Mod Podge and spill some glitter where the Mod Podge is to make it look like whoever was breaking into this thing managed to get some of the gold out. You can use the 50-50 water and Mod Podge to put little blobs of gold around. Same idea, just put the glue on, stick the whole thing in your box and shake it around. Really don't want to have glitter all over the place. It will never go away. There you go, now you have more gold so it's more obvious what's going on here. If you are a crafting GM, this is a great player hook, because I'm not a GM, I'm a player, and if I saw that on the table, I'd be like, ooh, shiny. You know any player who sees that much gold is going to go for it. That's a trap right there. Like I mentioned before, I had gotten these dollar store dragons and I just don't like them for this build. So instead, I'm going to use this dragon. This dragon was modeled by Miguel Zavala, or MZ4250, over on Thingiverse and Shipways. I just went ahead and spray painted it gold. I'm pretty sure this is the young green dragon. I'll find it and link it in the description. But yeah, this was a really good sculpt done by Miguel. Just put the tiniest amount of hot glue on the feet and the tail where it all touches, and stick him right on top. This is intended to be ornamental or decorative. It's not supposed to be a live dragon, but it could be a gold dragon in your game if you wanted to. A great way to make this gold stick is with some hairspray. This is from the dollar store. No need to use expensive stuff. This dries clear, works great. So here's what I was saying, you can change their pose by heating them up with a heat gun and just forcing the plastic to where you want it. The backs of these wings have all the made in China stuff all over them. I also picked up these Easter eggs from the dollar store because they look like giant gold eggs, which is pretty cool, but they're just too big for this particular build and these dragons. I mean, these dragons are 3 inches across at their feet. They're really big in D&D terms, and these eggs are too big for them. So I mean, you could try to use them for something if you want. I got them for something I had in mind. It didn't really work out, but it's an option. So if you were to base this entire thing, which was my original plan, the best thing to do is set it out how you like it on your mat, and that will tell you how big of a space you need. Once I got this all set up, I realized it would be 14 by at least 11 inches. You could go 14 by 14 to make it square. And I don't really want to. It's hard to store something that big, and these look great as modular pieces. You could put a little base on the pillars there and put their rubble pieces below them and stuff if you want. I don't think they really need it. I like it just like this, actually. Just remember when you're crafting, if something deviates from the original plan, that's fine, don't worry about it. Just roll with whatever works. I ended up really liking the way this turned out, all separate and modular, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it that way. There you go, guys, some ruined modular scatter pieces. I'm really bad at wording stuff, huh? Of course, as always, the whole thing, if you guys want to help support the channel or tell me what to build or anything like that, you can do that over on Patreon. But of course, as always, thank you for watching, everybody. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.